Well, folks, here again for the weekly forecast. Of course, during this last week, we've seen some very nice temperatures move in across the state. Last week, we indicated that the models were pointing out to some 50s and 60-degree weather in a few isolated spots of southwest Nebraska. Well, we ended up hitting the 70-degree mark, so the models underplayed the amount of warmth. And although they underplayed it, I don't think any of us are going to complain about that type of temperatures at this point in the early part of the winter. Now, as we go forward in time, we got a couple systems to deal with, one that's moving through the state as we speak and expected to create some problems to the east of us, less so in our region, and then we need to turn our attention to another system coming in during the middle of next week that has the potential to lay down a foundation of accumulating snowfall, and it's just a matter of where the track lays out, which will determine who gets the heaviest amount of snow as the system cranks its way through the central United States. So let's take a look at the upper models. First thing I'll draw your attention to is the current system that's impacting us has a deep trough dug in all the way down into southern New Mexico in the upper atmosphere, and a lot of energy moving northward. So in front of it, there's going to be a lot of moisture coming up from the surface to feed this system, and basically the track of the system is going to determine who gets the snow and who gets the heavier precipitation. And right now, the heaviest precipitation is being laid out from basically northeastern Texas northward up through central Iowa, where we could see up to 2 to 3 inches of moisture with this system during the heavy rainfall. But as you move toward the west, the precipitation drops off dramatically, and the heaviest precipitation lays across southeast Nebraska, primarily in the form of rain. As this system cranks itself out overnight into tomorrow, we start to see most of the main energy to the south of us and really bringing the fetching moisture up through the eastern corn belt. And for Nebraska, we'll be on the backside of this upper air low, so we do have the chance to see some snowfall occur during the early morning hours, but it does not appear that it'll be significant at this time. We're looking at maybe an inch, in a few spots may see a couple inches, but outside of that, the heavy precipitation stays to our east. And then we do a clearing trend as we get into Monday, as we see a ridge building back in temporarily, and yet another system building in the west. And this one's the one that we need to pay attention to because the models are all over the place. Right now, they're keeping the storm track just to the north of Nebraska, at least of the main foundation, but any southward movement of this trough, and we could see some rather significant snowfall across the state. So by the time we get to Tuesday, this trough is digging once again. We get this big shot of energy ejecting out of this trough that is going to lay a foundation of snow on the backside of the surface low over the Dakotas, some of that touching northern Nebraska. We could be looking at a couple inches of accumulation, much more significant if the system once again stays a little bit farther south. On Wednesday, the system weakens and pulls out toward the Great Lakes. We leave a little bit of energy in our region for some flurry activity, but that's about the extent of it. And then we look for a clearing trend as we get through Thursday, as ridge starts to build in. That will lay some flurry activity across the western part of the state, but for the most part, looks like fairly dry conditions. And then we'll be under the influence of high pressure on Friday. So if we look at the temperature forecast, we are looking at a gradual cool down as the week progresses. We work more Arctic air into our region, snow this weekend with a little bit of rain, and then we're looking at another snow event as we get into Tuesday. The 8 to 14-day forecast from next Thursday to the following Tuesday shows once again more storm activity in the western United States, and some of that energy will start to move out, especially as we get close to Christmas.